Okay, so here we are, folks, back for another YouTube Live. And today we're going to be talking about my logo design process. Um, it's something which I've kind of gone through before on the channel. I have a couple of case study videos, and I just thought it would be good to do a YouTube Live where I go through another client's logo design and just take you through the process that I went through. And if you're a logo designer and you're looking for maybe slightly different ways of doing things, or how the process, you want to see how others do it, then this could be a good YouTube Live for you to watch. This particular logo project is probably a couple of years old now, so there will be some differences to how I carry out my work nowadays, but I will mention that as I go through the live stream. If I come across any bits which I handle differently today, then I'll make sure to let you know. So, like all live streams, I'm not going to wait on people joining or saying hi in the chat. I'm just going to crack on, and people can watch the replay and rewind if they need to, if they missed the beginning. Okay, so we do have people joining. So hey, Whiskey Sir, glad to have you here. You're here for the very beginning of the video, so that's cool. Hey Savina, thank you for your hello from India. Hi from Scotland. So let's just crack on. So today I'm going to be taking you through a logo project which I did for a client called Jason Davila. Now, I may be pronouncing his surname wrong. It may be Davila or Davila or Davila, but I think it's Davila. And Jason didn't. I don't think Jason ever corrected me on that. So I want to, if Jason, you do watch this live stream on replay, then my apologies for getting your surname wrong. More quick hellos to Fuad. I hope I'm saying that right. Apologies if I'm getting your name wrong. This is the thing, you have people from all over the world joining, and spellings and things that I'm not used to saying. Seke, hi as well, from Paris. So we've got people from Algeria, we've got France, we've got India. This is awesome. Great. Thanks for joining. So, obviously, when it comes to a project, you want to have a brief from your client as to what they want. So let's be handy if I jump to my desktop, wouldn't it? So that we can all see what I'm looking at, and you can see it too. So Jason, the client, got in touch with me. He'd actually got in touch because he'd seen some of my YouTube videos and liked what he saw, and wanted to kind of have a chat with me about potentially helping him with his brand. And we had a few video calls. We got on really well. I really liked him as a person, and you get a feeling for clients sort of on that first call whether there's going to be a good working relationship. And for me, that's very, very important. It's one of the first things as part of taking a client on, is you want to make sure that you're both going to connect and get on well, because you don't want to be working on something for potentially 4, 6, 8 weeks, however long your process is. But you want it to be fun, you want it to be enjoyable, and so you want to make sure that you're working with clients who get you and that you get them. So I always have a discovery call to begin with, where I just get to know the client a little bit, see what they're like, and see if we're the right fit. Because it's not just about me choosing the client and thinking whether they're the right fit for me. It's also to give the client an opportunity to see if I'm the right fit for them. It's not a one-way thing. It goes both ways. And thankfully, Jason and I hit it off, and we got on. We got on really well. Hey Hassan, thanks for joining. Fawad's asking if I can do logo critique episodes. Yeah, that's something that we could probably do with these live streams, is do some logo critique stuff. It's one of those things I see a lot of designers do, on YouTube, logo critiques and things. I I suppose the reason I haven't done them is, you know, I want to be kind to everyone, and helpful. And sometimes when you have to give critiques on things, it's not the best news that you're delivering to someone, because it just might not be very good. But I think that's more to do with me and my own personality type. But you know, if it's going to be helpful for people to, you know, see logo critiques and get some advice and hear my opinion, and it will be that, it'll just be my opinion and my feedback, then yeah, let's do some logo critiques. So thanks for raising that. You've now got my commitment to doing that. So what we'll do is we'll probably sort something out in the community part of my channel, where I'll maybe ask for people to send in logos, you know, if they're willing to have them critiqued by me, and we'll do that. We'll do some regular monthly logo critiques, and hopefully people can learn from it. Savina's saying that I've helped her up her game over the last couple of years, and she'd like to thank me. Thank you very much, Savina. It's why I do this. You know, it's really it's really to help, and just kind of, you know, if I've gained experience and knowledge, then I just feel it's the right thing to do to share that, you know, with others. Yes, my main goal was to share it with business owners, to help them understand design and logo design, but just, I don't know why I didn't think, you know, other designers would find it useful, but they have, and it really makes it worthwhile, because it's hard work. You've got to put in a lot of time to creating the videos, and you know, you're trying to juggle a business at the same time, and so to hear feedback like that from yourself, then that's, you know, it makes it all worthwhile. It really does. So thank you very much. Seki, the same, thank you. Yeah, and if I was saying, don't be kind, just be honest, bro. Kindness won't let us develop our skills. You're absolutely right. I would rather, when someone's, you know, critiquing my work, that they're honest with me, because you're not going to learn just by someone saying, yeah, it's pretty good. You need to kind of hear, you know, why. And if I do give critique, it will be based on my experiences and how I think things could maybe improve. So let's do that. So let's crack on. So Jason sent me a brief of what he was looking for after we'd had our discussions, and I'd sent him over a proposal with my pricing, which he was happy with, and basically I asked him, okay, send me a document with what you're looking for. And this was an interesting one for me, because I'm used to doing logos for businesses. And so Jason, you know, I won't read the whole thing, but Jason, basically, we'd had a discussion, and he was looking to set up a business in the future based around real estate. And he could see already that there would be different elements to the brand, and so we started discussing, you know, well, how would that form? Would it be a, you know, what brand architecture would it be, and would it be a house of brands or a branded house? Now, I don't want to go into all that terminology today. I do have a video on my channel which talks about brand architecture, so you can check that out if you want to look for that. In the replay, hopefully I'll be able to put a card or something at the top of the video so that you guys can just click on that. So we kind of agreed that it would be a branded house, so it would be Davila Rental Properties, Davila Multifamily, Davila Renovations. And as we got speaking about it, getting towards the end, it turned out that really in the first instance, what Jason was looking for was, he wanted something for his family name. So almost like, you know, a family logo, which would then be used for the business. And so that was really interesting for me to kind of develop a logo that was more for family members. And as he says here in this last paragraph down here, he says, as previously mentioned, the brand logo we're hiring Pixels Inc. for will be used primarily for personal use on merchandise, such as hats, clothing, drinkware, etc. Once again, while we are a business, this could be considered a personal and family brand. So that was really interesting for me. So it was good to kind of get that brief. So one of the first things that I did, you need to excuse some of the the quality of some of the graphics on this, it might be a little bit fuzzy because I'm zooming right in on some pretty low res JPEGs. Jason sent me these two graphics with his design brief, saying he liked these. Now, I'll be honest, and pretty honest with Jason as well, in that I did like the Riata one. I felt it looked quite modern, and you could see here that they had this branded house. They were able to use the R symbol inside what I took to be sort of a rope, sort of a rope-like border or frame, and they had the branded house there. And then you had one below which was Embray Development, Construction and Management. Now, I really don't like that Embray logo. It looks very, very dated. Like it's from the 1980s, possibly further back. Now, there's nothing wrong. There are plenty of good logos from, 100 years ago, whatever. But sometimes logos, when they're designed, they look like they're from a period in time, and they don't age well. And the Embry one kind of looked that way to me. And there was also the balance between the serif type and then the sans serif type underneath, and then the colors in the logo mark. It did not sit well with me. I didn't like it at all. And so I wasn't sure, because it's very different from the Riata one. So I had a chat with Jason and kind of got his feelings on this, and I sort of decided, well, if we're going to go down any route, which based on these two examples, it would probably be the top one, because it's more modern, but it also has, because of that rope shape around it, that almost gives it sort of a heritage feel. So it's got the modern and the heritage look about it. One of the other things that I would do when I'm working with a client is I will send them a couple of documents to complete. One of them is a core values document, which helps me to know what their core values are as a brand, as a person. And I've got different levels of service. On this live stream, I'm not going to get too much into brand strategy. I used to do a little bit of brand strategy with logo design projects, and that was the case here. These days, I've separated out my brand strategy as an independent service, which I now do before I start any logo design work. So when it comes to working with clients, if they've not really done much brand strategy work, they've not really refined their core values or their purpose or their vision or their mission, it's work that needs to be done, because that really helps guide the tone and the personality of the brand. You start to work into archetypes and things. And I'm talking about, vision and mission and purpose. I have some videos on the channel about that. But when we start to get into brand archetypes, that's an area that I've not touched on yet with a video. And it is one that I do want to do, but it's a fairly big chunky video, so it'll take a bit of work to do, but I do want to get that done to give you guys more knowledge about brand strategy. That's one of my big things that I want to do with the channel, because I'm moving more into strategy. I want to bring more of that information onto the channel as well, so that you guys can all learn it too. So I got Jason to complete a couple of forms, just giving me some information. I won't go into everything, in this video. I'm basically almost bullet pointing some of the processes here, because this could be an incredibly long video if we do that. And so you see down here the values that Jason gave me. We've got family, passion, entrepreneurship, financial independence, and work-life balance. So it's very much around family, all of that sort of feeling. And then was asking about, sort of the name, looking at the name, because it's going to be a family logo. So let's look at the name. And a bit of background about how Jason feels about his family and what it means to him. And so for Jason, it was, about the logo was about creating a legacy, something that he could hand down to, future generations. He wanted to build something for them. Not just, yes, the business aspect when it arrived, but also just this symbol, this logo would become the Davila family mark, and something that he could gift to future generations. So we've got children, we've got freedom. So freedom to kind of run his own business, make his own money. Is about home. He wanted that heritage, but he also wanted it to be modern looking as well. His father was from Mexico. His mother is from Texas, and that's where they live right now, in Texas. And the origin of the name is Spanish. They've got a great work ethic in his family. He feels the circle of life thing was important to him. And like I've mentioned, legacy and generations. So I tried to build up a picture of what everything kind of meant to Jason so that I could have that in the back of my mind when I was working on his logo. So let's move down a bit. So I started to look into the name. I wanted to get some real history around it, find out where it was from, find out that it was, sort of first mentioned in Spain, in the Castile region of Spain, was when Davila sort of came around. And there's different orientations of the name, some with the D, some without, some where it's D apostrophe AVILA, and so there's lots of differentiations of it, but it originated in the Castile region. Find some photographs of some old town, lots of parapets and sort of castle-looking architecture. Found the coat of arms for the family name Davila, and just sort of looking at the population of how many people have that name in the world these days. And really interestingly, even though it originated in Spain, I found this graph showing, as a census of who has the surname. And you can see here over on the left, the majority of Davilas live in the United States, where Jason was. And Spain is second, but it's tiny, the proportion compared to the US. And so looking a little bit further onto a map of the US and where those names are, you can see here that by far the most dense population of Davilas is in Texas, which is where Jason was. So it was really interesting to kind of dig deep and, go into the name. Just checking the chat here. Oh, hey, Jay. Thanks for joining. Hi, Nitish. Thanks for joining as well. It's great to have everybody here. It's awesome. I'm so used to speaking to myself for a while, so it's good to have people on the stream. So it gave me a really good feeling for where the name was from and things like that. So I was really, really working heavily on this heritage side of things for when I took it forward. So the next thing to do is jump into the sketchbook, start to sketch out, rough thoughts, ideas. The first thing that I had in my mind was, using a letter D for Davila, and what could I do with that? You can see on my sketches I've got. I'll try and sort of zoom in a bit more. I had family plus legacy plus the initial D, and so I was just working out just different shapes. Not always going to be great, and that's the whole point of sketching, is you get all the crap out of the way. You just draw, because it's pretty much guaranteed that for the first hour of sketching, you're going to do the obvious stuff, the stuff that everyone else is going to be sketching. So you keep on sketching until you start to get a bit stuck, which means that you then have to think harder and think about ways of doing things. So that's kind of how I like to do it. You can see here I was doing this with pencil and my paper sketchbook. I now use my iPad Pro, and I now sketch directly on that. It saves me having to take photographs of my sketchbook. I can now just transfer the digital files from my iPad into into my work spreads. Tyrone's asking how long I spend on the sketching stage. It really depends. Sometimes a concept will come through pretty quickly that I think's strong enough to move into Illustrator and start brainstorming in Illustrator with it. Other ones I can spend a long time. I take regular breaks. I would recommend that you don't sit sketching, for hours and hours on end. You do need to take a break from it. Some people get a bit surprised when I tell them how long it takes me, how long my logo process is. And I usually say it's about 6 to 8 weeks for me to work on a logo. And some people are like, wow, I can turn it around in a couple of days. That's fine. Probably over the 6 to 8 weeks, it's probably only 3 or 4 days in total time. But for me, I need to take time away. I need to be able to walk away and come back at it and look at it again with fresh eyes. And that often takes 24, 48 hours, because sometimes you think a concept's good and then you go away and you come back and you go, actually, that's probably not going to work. Or sometimes you think a lot of your concepts absolutely suck that you've been sketching, but when you go away and come back and look at them again, you're like, actually, you know what, that is a really good concept, and you need that time. And you also, the client, when you're showing the client stuff, the client needs time with it as well. And I just feel that if you kind of push through without giving breathing space and thinking time, that's when people can have, especially clients, can feel a bit railroaded to make decisions quickly, and yourself, you feel the pressure to make decisions quickly. Sometimes deadlines are good. Don't get me wrong. I work better. I'm pretty sure I work better under deadlines. But when people are paying you money, I want to give them the best thing. And so I explain right at the start, if you're looking for a logo to be done in a week, it's not going to happen with me, and you'll need to find another designer. So it's different for every designer. But for me, I would say on average, from Sketchbook to moving over to Illustrator, probably half a day, maybe, half a day on average, a day probably at the longest. And before I then move into Illustrator. And I'm not the best at drawing either, hands up to that. I'm not a good illustrator or anything like that. I'm very much a graphic designer. Your sketches don't need to be amazing. They just need to get the idea onto the page. They don't have to be, finished designs. I see a lot, online of sketches presented, sketchbook that's full of like trying things out and ideas, than a sketchbook that looks like it's being entered for like an awards ceremony or something. And it's just not for me. So my sketches can suck, but I know what the idea is that I'm trying to get to. So when I was kind of doing the sketches, there was something sort of appearing down in the bottom, which I didn't really think about much, but it was there, and it was sort of about, carrying a torch for future generations. I look at that now and I'm just like, that was not very good. And then I had a note here, Avila in Spain. That was it. That was the name of the town that I took a photo of. The town was called Avila, and it had fortified walls and things. So I was maybe thinking, could we do something with that? So one of the things that kind of came from this bottom one was family trees. And I started to look at the idea of family trees and started kind of sketching out that sort of idea for the concept around the logomark. And then looking at, going online and looking at how family trees are laid out, graphically. And so a tree obviously grows up the way, but then when I was looking at a lot of the way family trees are displayed, it was sort of left to right and expanding that way. So I had a look on, I was just picking things offline and having a look, and then taking that family tree and kind of tilting it over so that you've got almost, past moving to future rather than down to up, more left to right. And I started to play with that as a concept, just roughly, just taking a letter D. And like I say, these are only some of the things. My actual art boards are a lot busier. There's a lot more going on, but I didn't want, I want you guys to see sort of a more of a linear process when I'm going through this with you. And then, so I had it going left to right, and then I flipped it again to up and down, because I felt, maybe the D could be more like a shield, which is that sort of heritage thing, more like a, in Scotland it would be a clan, that sort of, family crest type look. But then I was like, well, I don't want it to be too old fashioned, so I reverted back again to the left to right, and started to round off the shield shape a little bit more. So it started to get back to looking more like a D. And as you can see, the lines became less organic, less tree and branch like, and more geometric, more sort of, smoothed out. Because I wanted it to, look modern, so I wanted it to look fairly geometric if I could, to do that. So once I had this sort of idea of, this is what I want to go for, I want to work on this, I started to just build some basic shapes using squares and circles, just to, bring some more maths into it, I suppose, so it looked more perfected. And start to just build up on these shapes to try to recreate something like this that gets across these paths that I wanted to get in. So, the idea behind this was the heritage, past to future, but how different families come together, so you have people getting married and children being born. So you have like two lines, two separate lines. I'll just say husband and wife right now. I'm not getting into, any gender things or, nothing like that. I'm just, children being born. And so you have, the crossover there where those two people meet and new lines form as children are born and things. And I just liked that idea, and I wanted to bring that in. So I started to use these shapes to create the lines within this D shape, which you can sort of see here. So I had this one up here where you've got all these massive circles, and then I used the shape builder tool in Illustrator just to remove all of these external ones and leave the lines behind. And then I started to simplify more to just leave behind. So for me with logos, and you'll hear it all the time, is it's what you take away, not what you add. You could have everything in the kitchen sink inside a logo, but then it becomes busy and it doesn't really work very well as a mark. Yes, there are different styles of logo. You can have very illustrative logos, and if that's what you're going for, then there's a purpose behind that. But for me, I'm trying to get across a concept in a simple idea, and so for me, it's about what can I keep taking away until I can't take anything away anymore, and it still means what I want it to mean. So I started taking the lines away, and when I was working on the sort of this left-hand side of it, it looked a bit, I don't know, a little bit, well, it was flat. It looked a little bit flat because it was flat. And I just took away this segment here, which gave me this really nice inward curve, almost like, it reinforced the moving forward. It gave that an arrow type shape moving forward and leading into the D shape. And when I got to this, I was really, really happy with that shape. I thought it looked really nice, really simple. But the lines were a bit thin, so started to play around with the thickness of the lines as well, and using the line tool so that it started off thin, moving thicker, just to see if I could give it some more movement through the shape rather than it being a monoline thickness on all the lines being the same point size. And you can see here, I was, taking it right down to, very minimal lines, but it lost something. It lost a lot of I wanted multiple intersections, and we only really got down to sort of one intersection here, which didn't really work for me. So played around with it till I find something which I liked. So the next thing for me was to move on to type. And I had an idea from the beginning that I wanted a type that looked like it had some heritage to it, but also felt a little bit modern. This one on the bottom definitely has heritage, but it's very old-fashioned, and it didn't work for me. This one above, which is called a Bangle Normal, I really like the A's, the crossbar on the A's really spoke to me, and then it's got the sans serif, the serifs on it, which just gave it that heritage look. And the reason I like the A's, the crossbars on the A's, is that it tied in with what I was doing with the shape. Now I looked through hundreds and hundreds of fonts. I didn't just, pick these two at random. I just was like, do I want to go all in on the old school with the type, or do I want to try to find something which, has what Jason was wanting, was some heritage but with a modern feel to it. And so I decided to go with Bangle Normal. Now, this is Bangle Normal typed out just normally, just typed out. And you can see it's got some major kerning issues going on with it. And that's one thing I see a lot from newer logo designers, is they'll find a type that they like, they'll find a font that they like, and they'll just type it out and they'll leave it. But there's a massive gap here compared to, some of the, like, the spacing here. The spacing is different between every single shape and every single glyph. Just in case you don't know, a glyph is a letter or a number inside a font. It's, all the different glyphs make up the font. And it needed some work done on it. So I spent a little bit of time just working on the kerning between the letters to get it to balance to where I thought it needed to be. And you can see here that I also brought the L into the A to get and join them, so that I felt that worked better. It helped bring everything a lot closer. And then the next thing that I did to just, make it that little bit more bespoke for the client was I went into this A and I didn't just flip it. Because if you flip the A, well, you'll see here that the A has a thin side and a thick side. If you just flip that, it looks weird because you've got all this heavy weight sort of pushing into the A. And so what I did was I just chopped out the crossbar, and then I went in and redid it so that it mirrored this A here. And then you sort of have this movement through the word now. So you've got this sort of almost a bridge from the A to the A, which ties in with the fact that, it's the Avila part, and then the Davila kind of ties in. You see here that there's a bit more of a gap between this and that. I'm just kind of playing around with how that works. But it started to really kind of come together and look nice as a word mark. And part of me was like, you could use this without the symbol. It's, it's got quite a nice look to it as a word mark on its own. So I brought it together with the symbol, and just felt that they tied together really nicely, and it was fairly cohesive with that. I'm just going to check the comments, because it seems to be there's quite a few comments on here since we last spoke. So Toba is asking, would the brand identity design be done alongside the logo or after the 6 to 8 weeks? So when you mean so when you're talking about the brand identity design, do you mean the supporting materials to that? Do you mean, sort of like your stationery and all of the things that kind of, make up the brand identity? Is that what you mean? Just post in chat if that's what you mean, Toba. For it saying most underrated logo designer, he tries to give us the best every single time. Thank you, very much appreciated. Oh, Jared, I just see that you're joined as well. Good to see you. And Toba, yeah. So the sporting materials. Well, you'll see when I'm going through this, I will go back through the chat and I will answer your question. But I think I'll answer some of it as we go through this, and then I'll expand on that as we get towards the end. I should have got a drink because my mouth is very dry from talking so much. Yeah, so Savina, I think it's the marketing collateral and sort of the supporting materials. So we shall get to that. So I was really happy with this. I thought it looked good. And as you'll see, I'm working in black and white as well. You probably hear that as well by a lot of the logo designers. Work in black and white first to make sure that, everything balances up and you're not getting distracted by color. Because when you add color, it can affect certain things, aspects of it, weight and stuff. So I work in black and white most of the time. The only time I won't is if there's at the very beginning, there is a very good reason to use a specific color or a color palette. Then I will work using that color palette to build the best looking logo that balances well using that palette. But most of the time, black and white. And then it's important as well that you check how it looks, white on black. And you do get an optical illusion effect with white out of black. The white can look heavier. What I mean by heavier is the lines can look thicker, and it's they're not any thicker than this one. These two things here, these two logos here are just copied and pasted onto here, but they're the same. This is slightly smaller, so I can't really. I could maybe zoom out and show you. And see if that works. It can look heavier, and so when you create white on black, what you sometimes have to do is just add an outline stroke of maybe 0.25 just to take the white in a little bit, so you get the same visual balance on the two. That will change from logo to logo depending on what the logo's like, how thick things are, or how thin they are. But it is something that you will notice, and you would need to kind of adapt for when you create an inverted version of the logo to export the files. And then obviously Jason was looking to use this in the longer term as a business logo, so I wanted to just add in a tagline or a strapline to make sure that the balance works with it overall. And what I did was, so where I had the logo mark sort of dead center with the text here, so all read across, I just increased the size of the logo mark a little bit and then centered it to all of this. So it's centered to this rather than centered to just the top text there. And then obviously for the stacked version, it's all centered. So that really worked well, and just kind of threw onto a baseball cap just to kind of see how that would look. So when I got to, this point, everything, got Jason on a video call, and took him through that process that I've just taken you through, and presented it to him, presented the concept, my ideas, and it went really well. And he was really, really pleased with it. And I said, right, okay, well, obviously I'm asking, you're giving me your impression straight away, but I would like you to sleep on it, have a think about it. And normally when I'm speaking to a client and I'm showing them a concept, I don't say, do you like the logo? I'll ask them, do you feel that this logo represents your brand? Does it fit the brand? Because if you ask someone if they like the logo, they might not like a specific shape or a color or whatever. And that takes away from, well, the logo's job is to work for the brand, not your own personal likes. Now, obviously, you want your client to like the logo because they're going to have to live with it. It's going to represent their business. But I found over time, there's been times where clients haven't really fallen in love with a logo, but they can see that it will really work for their brand. But then when I go and speak to them like a year, 2 years later, they have fallen in love with the logo because it's working so well for the brand. So just as a rule of thumb, don't ask the client if they like the logo. Rephrase it to, do you feel that this logo represents your brand in the way that we feel that your brand needs to represent itself? And you'll get a more thoughtful answer, because if they're like, no, I'm not sure, then the questions that you can ask and the answers that you'll be given will be more based around what's right for the brand rather than personal tastes. If you start getting into personal tastes, you're really on a hiding to nothing, because it's difficult to break out of that. So just, have that written down somewhere. Do you feel this represents the brand? Do you feel this is right for the brand? Does this logo achieve the goals that we set out for it to achieve when we started this project? Okay. Hey Sana, thanks for joining. So did all this presentation. Jason went away. I was really happy, super chuffed. Now you can probably tell there's a coming. And it was a couple of days later, and I got an email from Jason, and I opened the email, and it was a long email. Now, when it's a long email, it usually means that there's something's up when it's a long email. And so I read the email, and you do get a little bit, oh no, what's going on? But sort of going down to here. Let me just quit that. He had some doubts about it, and those doubts essentially came from, he felt that it maybe looked a little bit too old-fashioned and a little bit thin. He felt it was thin, and he wanted, he in his mind, when he was saying modern, he wanted it to be more bold. Now, obviously, if you remember, when we go back to this board, there's not really anything on here which is like super bold. If anything, it's quite, especially the Embry one, it's quite thin. The Riata text is quite bold. There's it's fairly bold, but it's got a lot of space and a lot of sort of openness inside it, so it gives it room to breathe. So I was like, okay, and we had the discussion about those two logos and the process I'd taken, and when we spoke about it, he really loved the concept, and he was like, that's what sold me. It was the work that you did, that you've managed to bring in the legacy and the connections and the forward movement, and the pathways that families create and stuff. He said, I loved that, and I got, and I loved the concept. But when I went away and I sat with it and I looked at it, it didn't quite feel right for the brand. And so thankfully, it was a fairly easy fix for me to move on with it. So I sat with it, once once Jason and I had our chat, and I'd kind of gotten over the miserableness of, I think I'm going to have to start again, which is never a great feeling when you're a logo designer, especially when you feel you've put everything into a concept. You know, your heart and soul goes into it. And that's one thing I should mention, is that when I work with clients, I do work on a one concept approach. I deliver one concept to the client. I don't deliver 3 options and say, which option do you prefer, and then, you know, then develop that option further. You saw from my sketches and things, I come up with different routes for things, but I will choose the strongest one, the one that I believe is going to work the best for the brand, and I will work that up, and I present one concept. Now, people say, well, that could be dangerous. What if they don't like it? And so this is, you know, a potential case of they didn't like it, but it wasn't the concept that he didn't like. It was more the execution around certain elements of it. And so I knew the concept was still strong, that what I had there, and I wasn't going to have to go back to the drawing board. And, you know, touch wood, I've been doing the one concept approach for a long time now, maybe 4 or 5 years, and I've not had to do a logo twice. I think when you do a one concept approach, you spend more time thinking about it, and you spend more time developing it. I think that's just my opinion. Some people may disagree. Some people may spend huge amounts of time doing 3 logo options or 5 logo options, but I just feel that's a quick way to burn out, because you're trying to, you know, do lots of things. And I'm sure if I used to do that. I used to do the same. I used to, you know, 3 to 5 options, you know, what do you like? But what would happen a lot of the time is the client would say, well, I like a bit of that one, and I like a bit of that one, and I like the text of that one. Can I have those 3 together, please? And we all know that that's not how logo design works. Because then you're making a Frankenstein's monster of a logo, which is just pulling bits from everywhere, and it's not cohesive in its ideas. And so that was the main reason. I just got tired of that. And so I, you know, or, you know, you hear people say, well, I've said I'm going to give them 3 logo options. I have one which is my absolute favorite and the one which I think is going to work, but I've said I'm going to give them 3. So I just quickly put together 2 other concepts. And then when you show them the 3, what's going to happen? They're going to choose one that you spent 5 minutes on, which you don't think works for their brand, but they really like it. And the one that you spent a lot of the time developing, that you think is the strongest option, gets left behind. And then you find yourself having to try to argue your one into the case and their one out of the case. And that's not what you want to be doing. As a designer, as a logo designer, you're the expert. You're the one that's done all the research and presented the research, and, you know, why the concept fits that research, why it fits the brand. And you present that, and you say, here's what will work for your brand. And that's how I work these days. I know some people find that difficult to do, and that's fine. If you're happy doing the 3 option route, then do it. I just feel that you're going to burn out a lot quicker, because you're having to create 3 concepts every time rather than being able to focus on one concept. Let's see, you've got a question here. How to do logomark and logotype proportions. What I mean, how can you make the sizes and proportions appropriate and visually appealing? You know what? One of those, the proportions of the logomark and the type, I don't know if there's, you know, meant to be some sort of equation or anything to get that right. I do most of my work, I do visually. I just if it looks good to me, then I'm happy with it. I don't start going, this needs to be half the height of this and that needs to be 3/4 the height of that. If a logo looks like that would work, then I will go in and start measuring, but most of the time I will just size and adjust until it looks good to my eye. And that's kind of done me well, you know, since I've been a designer. I work with other designers, and I think they pull their hair out when they work with me, especially when it comes to layouts, you know, magazine layouts and grids and things. I don't use grids. I don't use the grid system. I just do it all by eye. And if it looks right to me, then that's how I do it. I absolutely 100% believe in the grid system, and I know that when you use grids and stuff, it really does work. But it's just not how I've worked, and I'm too old now to go away and start learning all about where grids go and stuff. I do use basic grids, but I don't go really deep into it, and everything's got to be like micromanaged and stuff. And I do work with some designers, and God bless them. They put up with me, and I'm sure when I give them stuff and I make tweaks. I had a project recently where it was a brochure for a client, and Stuart, who works with me and does some design work for me, helped me out with project. He's my go-to guy for InDesign and layouts and things, because he's so good at it. And he wasn't available, and I had to make some changes to it, and I completely messed up his grid system. And I thought, I was like, I'm going to make him cry. But he was very understanding, and just went in and fixed things. But it's just work the way that you want to work. But if you're not confident with how you think it looks, then yeah, ask other designers. Go into a design group like Logo Geek or something like that. And if you don't know Logo Geek, if you go into Facebook and type in Logo Geek, it's a fantastic community and it's not just for logos. You can post other design things in there, but it is mostly logo chat. And there's another group as well, Resourceful Designer on Facebook. Go, join both of those, and you'll have a good resource of other designers to share your work with and get feedback on. So I hope that helps a little bit. It's like I say, I just kind of do what I want, really. Savina's saying that's gold. Do you like a logo versus does the logo represent your brand? Savina, I wish I'd known it 10 years ago as well. I wish I'd known that 20 years ago. I've been in this game a lot, for a while. I wish someone had told me that was the question to ask. I would have saved so much pain for myself over decades, but it kind of came into my field of view maybe sort of 6 or 7 years ago, and it absolutely changed how I do stuff. I'm just basically I'm eyeballing work. I'm eyeballing it, and I'm going, does this look right? Yep. And then I'm going to be going and just tweak it and nudge it a little bit. I suppose, Seki, you're never too old to learn. Never too old to learn. And I am learning. I was being flippant with that. Stuart does, he's showing me things, and I'm learning how to use InDesign better. I avoided it like the plague. I used to do multi-page brochures in Illustrator. I kind of still do. Like 16-page booklets and 24-page brochures, and I've got an artboard for everyone in Illustrator, and you don't have type styles and paragraph styles, and if you have to make a change, you got to go in and do it. Oh, I'm my own worst enemy at times, so having people like Stuart who can help me out and help me get a better end result for my client is really good. I know where my strengths lie, and I know where my weaknesses are, and so I would rather bring people in to help who have expertise in certain areas of design that I don't, and I just feel that that's the best way to do it, rather than me kind of cobble along and do that. So just watching the time, I've still got a bit to go. I hope nobody's bored. I hope everybody's fine and learning stuff today. So we got past the doubts bit, and I said, okay, I'll go away and I will make, I say no, I know what the next slide is. I said, do you have an example then of a logo that you think is modern looking, so that I could get an idea of what was in his head in terms of modern. And so he showed me the JP Morgan Chase logo, which really interested me. Because for me, one of the interesting things was the JP Morgan Chase symbol was almost like a very, very simplified version of the Riata logo at the start. Yes, it's a circle. I'm kind of getting to that, but it's taking it down and it's making it chunkier, more sort of abstracted, and seems to, just it has a presence, it has weight on the page, and the type is a little bit thicker as well. And so it gave me more of an avenue as to what he was looking for when he was saying modern. And so I was like, right, okay, well, I think I have an idea for how I can flip things around for you with regards to the logo. And so what I did was, fairly simply, was rather than, so if you imagine that this shape was, just a solid shape, I don't know if I'm going to, if I took all of these kind of segments away, and you were left with a solid D shape. So rather than it being black lines on a white D, what if it was white lines on a black D? Because that then gives you a much weightier mark, but keeps the conceptual idea that I came up with about the intersecting lines. I still get to keep this sort of this arrow shape. It's not straight up and down on the back, and gives Jason what he was looking for, something which has more weight in the symbol. And I don't have to go back and redo the entire logo. So purely with work, from flipping it around and working with the negative space rather than the positive space, it's the same logo almost. But then what happened was this now didn't really fit with the type. The top one I felt worked because it had that thinness about it, which worked well with the symbol, because you've got in the pathways, they go from thin and get thicker as they go towards the edge of the D, and then you've got this thick and thin in the lettering. And yes, you've got the thick and thin here in the white lines, but because you've got such heavy shapes now here, it didn't really work with the type. So I had to go and find another type which was going to work with the shape. So again, went through all my hundreds of fonts trying to find something, and ended up on this one, and I can't remember what it is. I'm sure it's an ITC something. Oh, I can't remember. We'll find out later because it'll be in the logo guidelines. But anyway, I found this one, and this one, when I was going through, just jumped out at me, because the font software that I use just in case anyone's interested, I use Fontbase for my font management, because I can create folders and stuff of, like, when Design Cuts release deals of fonts, I can put them in here so that I'm just looking at the ones which are in the specific deals, or I can create other folders. I've had to reinstall this and it's lost a lot of my folders, but I had a folder that was just ampersands, so just one fonts that typefaces that had really nice ampersands, so I could just go, right, I'm looking for a nice ampersand. I don't have to go through my 9,600 fonts. I can just look directly at the ones that I've already gone through and weeded out. So the good thing about Fontbase and a lot of other font management tools, if you don't have a font management tool, you should get one. This one, by the way, is $3. It's free, but if you want to get some benefits, it's $3 a month. It's nothing. And one of the benefits is that Fontbase will plug into Adobe Creative Cloud. So when I open a document, if I don't have the font installed or active on my system, as long as I've got the font on my system, Fontbase will activate it in the document, and when I close the document, it will deactivate the font. So it means that my system doesn't have like 9,600 fonts active all the time, because that's going to use up resources. So it switches them on and off as I open up documents. But another thing that they have is you can change the displaying type. So you can see here, I can look at that, and I can change the size of it. These are the first fonts in my list are dreadful. They're terrible. And you can change it so that it's more in blocks, so you can see more at the same time. I can change the type, so the type is white, and then I can make the background black. Sometimes that's easier for looking at type, is white type out of black, because it stands out a lot more. And you know, then I can just basically scroll through and look for one which, you know, is going to stand out. I think that's actually one of the ones which we had in there. But yeah, I can just, you know, and I can do that. I can go into like specific groups. So there's a modern design. So these generally are a more sort of sans serif type fonts. But anyway, Fontbase, check it out if you don't use a font management tool. It's pretty cool, and it's super cheap. So anyway, I use that. It helps me look at fonts really quickly. And I went with this one. And the reason I went with it is because it's got the thick and the thin, which I wanted, which reflects what I'm doing in the shape. And it just, you know, it looked really good. But one of the things that I liked that I'd done with the other one was this crossbar on the A, where it was also mimicking the path. So I went in and started to play around. I think I must have narrowed it down to two fonts in the end, and then I changed the crossbars on the A on both to see how they looked, and I preferred this third option here, and then I paired it up with the symbol and liked how that looked, and felt that this more achieved what Jason was looking for. I checked it in black and white, and I know for a fact that on this one I did add a stroke. So there is a stroke, there's a black, if I zoom right in so you guys can see this. There is, you can sort of see here, I'll zoom right in again. There is a slight stroke on this. I'm not entirely sure what the stroke weight is. So this is a 1 point stroke on this, just to make sure that the inversed version is the same weight optically when I'm looking at it as the black version. When I don't have the stroke on this, if I take the stroke off, it's just that little bit heavier. You can see if you look at sort of inside the A, it looks like it's a smaller amount of space inside that A, but it's the same. It's just optically, it's playing, you know, it's playing on your eye. And so by adding in that stroke again, I get the balance, and it now looks the same as the positive version as the negative version. And that's what I was kind of talking about earlier on. So you need to play around with that a little bit so you can get the right balance with it. And then the next thing was looking at colors, and I'd had a discussion with Jason way back at the beginning, and he was really sort of keen to use the, you know, we're talking about blues and silvers. So I already had that in my head. I didn't need to do a lot of looking at palettes. Normally there'd be a lot of work done with color palettes. I don't have my Pantone books here, but I'd have my Pantone books all open. By the way, I've started recording footage for a video about the Pantone bridge guides, because those are my favorite Pantone books, because they show spot and CMYK next to one another. So that will hopefully be ready in a couple of weeks to go on the channel, so you can learn a bit more about the Pantone bridge set, and then I'll follow that up with a video on the Pantone Connect software, which is basically, it's out there just now. It's free just now, but it will be chargeable. But the Pantone Connect software is replacing Pantone Color Manager, which is a video I've done on as well. So I'm going to have to do one on Pantone Connect so that I can keep everybody up to date with what's happening with that. So I was looking in, you know, what's going to be the best balance with, you know, blues or blacks and greys and things like that. And eventually landed on this one here. This one seemed to be the best balance between them all. And working with Pantone straight away here. I don't really do that very often, working straight with Pantones. I generally work with CMYK first, and then I will choose Pantones which match the CMYK. We'll talk about that in the Pantone bridge video when I get that done. And so this was the final color scheme for that logo, and again wanted to sort of see how that works with the type, make sure that it all balances out, balanced just as well really as the thinner version which I'd done originally. And one of the benefits of this version was that we'd be able to use it more for as a container, and you could kind of take shapes out and use shapes, and that's one of the things about logos as well, is that the more adaptable they are and the more you can take elements from it and use them as patterns and background shapes, the more it will build recognition with the viewer. Or your customers, they'll start to recognize parts of the logo. You think about the McDonald's M, you really only need to see one part of it, yellow on a red background, and it's the McDonald's logo. You don't need to see the whole thing. You can just see a part of it. So this kind of takes me on to the next part, where a lot of clients, they're not visually minded, and so you can show them, say, here you go, there's your logo. Do we feel it fits the brand? And they'll be like, yeah, it's all right. It's pretty good. He's done a decent job there. And, and you'll get that kind of language sometimes, and you're like, they're not really feeling it. It's because they can't, you very rarely will just see a logo on a white page. And so, you'll see it on things. And so as part of the process of almost selling the logo to your client, you need to show it on mockups. Now, the mockups that I've used for this particular project, these are the mockups from when I presented it. They're not the best. I do use better ones now. I don't create my own mockups. I know there's some people that do, and I think that's really cool because they're then bespoke to you. For the purposes of selling a logo to a client in terms of how the design works, I don't feel that you really need to create bespoke ones unless the product that they have is maybe really unique and you need to show it on that. Then yes, I would go the extra mile and try to create something for that. But most clients are just wanting to see it on like a hat or a mug or something, just to see it on something physical that helps them to picture how their logo can look. And so we're back to this hat again, but instead of it being the original logo, I put it onto the same hat. And obviously what's going to work now is this is probably going to work even better from the perspective of printing and embroidery, because it's much thicker, so there's much more, you can get more threads on it, so it's probably going to work better for that. So I just did a few different things, because if you remember rightly, right at the beginning, where Jason had said primarily in the beginning, this logo is going to be used for merchandise, for family members to wear. So it's going to be hats and, t-shirts and things like that. So that's why I created mockups, which are mostly around that. For other clients, I would create different mockups. But for Jason, I just find some mockups showing the logo on different sort of substrates. On hoodies, just the mark on its own, and then on the back, with the family name on the back, and pretty poorly mocked up embroidery there. But it just, as designers, we see the same mock-ups day in, day out. We're like, oh, not that mock-up again, or not that one, or that's not a really good one. Clients don't see the same things that we do. To them, this is brand new. And you need to have yourself in that mindset and be excited for them, and be excited when you're presenting to them. Don't make apologies for anything. Don't be like, oh, I could have picked better, mock-ups. The mock-ups are going to look great no matter what, because the client has never seen anything like that. And they're getting to see their brand new logo on something, and they're going to be excited. And if you can share that excitement with them, then it builds and builds. And that's what you want. You want the client to be excited and going away and wanting to tell the world, you know, about their new logo. And then there's like basic sort of t-shirt design. And then Jason got back to me and said, and he had a couple of requests, and he said, you know, he likes the outdoors, and he would go sort of, I don't know if it was like hunting or whatever, I can't quite remember, it was a few years ago now. But he asked, you know, is there any way you could kind of show some more, you know, camouflage type stuff, and, you know, more of an embroidered, like a patch that he could, you know, could he see a patch? And so I found a Photoshop action that allowed me to sort of mock up a semi-decent embroidered look patch, and I was able to sort of put it onto camo type baseball cap, and it was quite good that it wasn't centered as well. I quite liked the fact that it was on the side. It just looked a bit different, and I found like a jacket and put the embroidered one on the front, and then the print on the back, and that really brought it to life for Jason. This is what he would wear, and so seeing the logo on things he would wear really brought it home for him. So something else you can do is, when, you know, if you're approaching the mock-up stage, ask your client, is there anything specifically you would like to see the logo on? And if you can do that for them, that will really level it up, and they will feel much more associated with the logo and feel better about it. And then this was just a very quick brochure cover mock-up for when they were doing the rental properties, and again showing that image of the logo using the photographs inside each of the segments of the logo, and then you've sort of got this arrow pointing in as well, and that worked for that. So so that's the actual process of getting it to the point of the client being super happy with the logo. But the logo process doesn't end there. Might end there for the client, but it doesn't end there for me. So what I then need to do is I then need to export the logo for the client and give them their logo in various sizes and file formats that will suit all of the needs that they have. And I used to do that manually, and it, depending on how many variations of the logo there are, it could take hours and hours and hours. And then thankfully Michael came along with his fantastic software package, Logo Package Express, which now lets me do it in minutes. And it's so good. I know that some of you watching have probably got this, because I've done a couple of reviews. I reviewed the first version, and I reviewed the current version 2, which brought a lot of new things in which people had been requesting. And literally, I can export a logo in hundreds of different file sizes and formats in minutes. Here on the left here is Jason's logo package, and there's the inline version, so the horizontal version, and there's the stacked version, and it's got full color versions in digital and print and CMYK and Pantone coated, and then the digital versions, I've not gone into those folders, but you've got SVG, you've got PNG, you've got JPEG, the print versions are EPS, AI files. There's so many different files. Everything that he could ever want is in there. And if you have to do that manually, that's a lot of time to spend doing manually. Using Logo Package Express, done really, really quickly. Logo Package Express is $120. Now, depending on how much you charge for logo design, that could be quite a lot of money, but it's going to say you're going to get that time back. You know, if someone's going to take you 5-10 minutes instead of 4 or 5 hours, how much are you charging per hour? So how many logo jobs is it going to take for you to make your money back off of this? and you can obviously already see there's a link there, and if you use that link, you'll get $20 off Logo Package Express. So this is one of my could not be without tools now as part of my logo design process, and I can't thank Michael enough for developing it. And I know he's got other things on the horizon, which he's kind of let me in on, that I can't tell you about, fortunately. But he's got some cool stuff coming, and I'll do some videos on that once it's there. And then one of the other things that to give my clients is don't know why that's not got a font, is logo guidelines, just to give them, you know, a quick reference as to sizes, what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, their color palette, what fonts to use. This is where I said we'd find out what this font was. So this font is based on ITC Legacy Sans. That's what that one is. And I also give them an idea of some spacing. Now I do have other logo guidelines which are more expansive, and that's for clients that I work with who do a little bit more brand strategy, and we will work on their vision statement, mission statement, and so we'll have those things inside the logo. They're probably more brand guidelines than logo guidelines. This is a nice, I used to have this information here, I used to have as like a 16-page document, and I was like, there's no need for that. It's all it was nice white space, and it looked great, and it was very well designed. And I was like, that's a pain in the arse for a client to use. It's much better that they've got a one-page document. They could pin it on their wall if they want, and it's a one-page document they can send off to someone that's got all of the relevant information. So most of the time, I will send this. If they do have a larger brand guidelines document, they get this as well. So this is sort of more of a crib sheet of everything which is there. So there's enough information in this. And then once that's all done, and most importantly, once the client has paid, everything will be packaged up and sent over to them, along with a document which is me assigning the copyright of the logo over to the client, which then allows them to go and trademark the logo should they wish to do so. You don't have to give a document like this. By the client paying you, they are essentially buying, they've paid you for the work, so they should own that. But I just like to give the client peace of mind by sending them a piece of paper. It's not even paper, it's a PDF. Send them a PDF with my signature on it and a date. Nowadays I use Adobe Sign, so I can actually send this to the client. They can sign their part. They then download a PDF which is signed, and I get an email with the signed version as well. Whereas before, I'd always only end up with one with my signature on it because the client didn't want to sign it and scan it in. So Adobe Sign's a good thing now because I can now file away that I've got a copy of it, just in case the client loses it and they need another copy. I can send it over quickly. I do have some caveats in there in case anyone's interested. So yes, I'm signing over copyright to the client, but at the same time, I am retaining some rights to this that allows me to continue to use the logo in terms of self-promotion, because we're only as good as the work that we do, and we need to use that work in order to bring in new work. So I have that written in here that that I can still do that, and I also mention that that a copyright transfer is not the same as it's not a trademark, it's not a registered trademark. They would have to seek help with that. Since working with Jason, I now actually have a trademark company that I do refer all of my clients to if they want to go through the trademark process. And that's actually another video which I'll be starting work on soon, because I've just recently trademarked my business name, Pixels Inc., and I've trademarked Rock Your Brand. So I now own those registered trademarks in the UK, and I'm going to create a video on what that process was like and how it went, so that if you need to do that in future, then you'll have some idea of what's involved. You know, how you go about that, and maybe some of the costs that are involved. That will change depending on what country you're in, because there's a lot of government costs involved. So it depends on what your government will charge for that. But it's an interesting process, and it feels good to own the registered trademarks. That gives you a little bit more safety that no one can kind of copy your business name. So I believe. Oh yeah, so that I thought that was the last slide. The last slide is actually, it was probably about 6 months, maybe longer, and I got an email out of the blue from Jason where he'd got a coffee mug made with his logo on it, and he was absolutely, I could tell from the email how excited he was to have a physical item with his logo on it, and it really made me smile. And it's these things, it's these small things. It's not, you know, it's just these physical things, and that's why I've got like loads of stuff with, like, I've got Rock Your Brand and things. You know, having your logo on things really makes it real for people. And so he may not have the business up and running yet, but he's got his mug, you know, his coffee mug that he can have every day. And he sent me just a really nice, he sent me a large testimonial, and I will be doing a case study interview with him. But just, you know, he said, my experience was nothing but incredible, and the finished product was equally amazing. And that, you know, that's why I do it. And it's like when Savina gave me a comment earlier on about my YouTube channel, it's why I do it. I just like to see people happy, and give them something that they can use. And, you know, even when I'm not here anymore, you know, when I've gone to wherever it is you go, I will have left work behind that people are still using, you know, and that's a great feeling to know that you've had an impact like that on people, and it will, you know, potentially be used for, you never know, you know, could be a long, long time. And that's sort of how that works. So what time is that? Okay, that's like been about 80 minutes, 85 minutes. So I've kind of gone on a bit. So what we'll do is we will have a look at the chat and see what's being said since I've last looked. I can see my name mentioned a few times. And I'm probably going to be reading comments now, which were just about the, you know, stuff that was back when I was talking about it. You should give me this hat. I guess you're hiding some creativity boost device underneath. Farzana says, amazing video. Savina, you pretend to be a noob. Have a good day. I can't wait to see. Oh, okay. Yeah, so like I say, when you know, you say you can't wait to see the colored version, like I said, the color was already kind of almost agreed. I didn't mention that at the beginning, but we had discussions around that, and you can sort of see how Jason, even with his mug here, he's gone for sort of a powder blue with the steel. I'm not entirely sure if that is a silver ink or if that, it looks potentially like it's a blue matte coated silver mug, and that's been laser etched. I think they may have lasered the logo and burned away the paint. Love your work, love your process, love your designs. Thanks very much, Donna. I really appreciate it. You know, it's the fact that anyone watches my videos on YouTube is great. You know, I'm you know, yes, you know, I'd love to have that 100K badge, you know, the YouTube badge, but the fact that I'm helping people along, maybe helping them with their career or helping a business owner understand design a bit better, so that when they use a designer, not even me, but any designer, they have a better understanding and knowledge. I feel like I'm kind of maybe helping the industry a little bit. And there's a lot of other great designers on YouTube who are doing the same, you know, all trying to move the industry forward. So I really appreciate your comments. I really, really do. So Maxud saying, I'm curious, how much do you charge for the logo? I always get that question. If it's not a commercial secret, thank you in advance. No, I really don't. I don't hide my pricing. At the moment, And bear in mind, everyone charges different levels, and there's a lot of things that go into it. Confidence is one of them. Took me a long time to get confident with my pricing and confident with what I could do. Let's just move to, yes, we're in the chat. So I charge for my logo design service. I charge, well, it's £20. I charge £4,000 plus VAT for my logo design service, which I know is a huge amount compared to what some other designers are charging. You might be charging £100, $250, whatever. When I started my logo design, I started in 2005 with my own business, so wasn't working for another company, and I had to start out myself. I was charging £75 for a logo, which is about $100, and it took me a long time. So I started in 2005, and I was charging £75, and I think it was 2014 or 15, I had bumped my way up to £1,000. So it took me 10 years to go from let's say £100 to 1,000. And now I charge 4,000 for the process you just saw there. That's how much I charge. If a client needs brand strategy work, then that's an extra cost. Where I work with them on their purpose and vision and mission and stuff. That's a different service, and I have different levels of that as well. But it just goes. It's not about the amount of work that you do either. I know that some people do value-based pricing, where they charge based on the size of the company. So, if it's like a massive corporation and they're, a $1 billion company, if you're creating a logo for that company, then that logo is worth a lot to them. And so you charge, some people say, well, if you're a $1 billion company, then I'm going to charge you $1 million for your logo. I don't know, but and if you're a smaller company, like a local hairdressers or a barber's, then you're going to charge less because the logo's really only going to be used locally. I don't do value-based pricing. I pretty much have fees based on what I think the work is worth to me and how I value it. I'm not saying I would never move into value-based pricing. It does interest me, but it's just not how I work at the moment. But yeah, I've never really hidden my pricing from other designers. I know that some people think, oh well, if I'm going up for a job and that designer's going for the job, they know how much I charge and they'll undercut me. I also don't care about that anymore. I'm confident enough in my pricing that I'd rather someone wanted to work with me because they wanted to work with me and they liked my work, or and they liked how I am as a person and they feel that we could work together. If someone isn't going to work with me because someone else charges £10 less, personally probably don't want to work with that client if they're just going to move for £10. And that's not the type of client I want to work with. I want to work with clients that that value what I do. And so it can be difficult to charge money. I'm not going to pretend. I hate charging money. I really do hate charging money. I find it difficult. I'm not a salesman. I'm a designer that started his own business, and I've had to learn how to do the business side of things, and it's not easy. I still struggle with it, but the best thing to do is surround yourself with other business people who maybe are more confident with pricing, who can help you. And when you're feeling not confident about charging something, just speak to someone who is confident with it, and they'll usually say, yeah, if that's how much it's going to take, then charge it. Because there's a lot of designers, and I myself included, you have a tendency to have a price in your head but then lower it in order to get the work, because you maybe need the work, and so you lower the price even though the client hasn't asked you to lower the price. You're just instantly lowering the price, and there's no need to. I know we're kind of, we've got things like Fiverr, and I hear stories about Fiverr and things. Fiverr's bringing pricing right down to rock bottom. That's never going to go away. It's always going to be there. Every industry, more or less, has something like that inside it. Focus on you and just focus on who you want to work with, because the types of clients that I'm working with that pay me the fees that I charge don't even look at Fiverr. That Fiverr's not in their view angle, and there's lots and lots of clients like that. The ones that are going to Fiverr for logo design probably aren't the types of clients you want to work with anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Try to put it out, try not to think about it. Just try to focus on what you do. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate Fiverr, full stop. I think Fiverr has its uses for certain areas of design and things like that. I just don't feel that it's, and I know that there are different levels of charging on Fiverr, and there's some great designers on there, but for me personally, I've seen too many stories of people getting logos on there and the logos have been ripped off designs from someplace else, and I don't see Fiverr doing enough to combat that. And so that's why I would never recommend anyone use Fiverr for a logo. But for things like social media graphics and stuff like that, it's, I don't see a problem with it. But yeah, so hopefully that's kind of expanded on your question about how much I charge. But let's see. The chat's going up now. So there, just keep no, I won't forget the logo critique. I will definitely do that. It might not be for a little bit because I've got some other topics lined up for the live streams, but we will definitely do it. Even if it's maybe we'll do a live stream and maybe we'd say, right, the first half an hour is for logo critique and then the second half an hour is for something else. So we'll do that. Oh, hey, Craig. I just saw you pop up there and join. And speaking about, people that surround yourself with people that can help you make the best decisions and help you move forward. Craig is a good example of that. I'm in a little group that Craig set up, and it's really supportive. And if you're having problems with the business or you're needing some insights with design, then the group that Craig created is just has been brilliant for me. And so I would recommend that if you've got a group of friends or people that you're quite close with, create a little group, an accountability group that you can kind of all speak to, and do that. It's really, really useful. Stella's saying, holy crap, I need to revise my pricing. Just do what you need to do. Don't feel that you need to kind of chase what other people are pricing, because everyone's journey is different, and we all have and we also live in different areas of the world as well. some places it would be very difficult to charge certain levels of money because incomes are lower, and it's a different thing. So there's lots of circumstances that can dictate how much you can charge for things. But just get yourself out there, get yourself known, start networking, build a website. That's one of the first things you should do, is build your own website. Don't focus on things like Dribble and Behance and stuff. Build your own website, start driving traffic to your own website. Control your land. If you're building stuff on Behance and stuff, they could turn that off any time. And if you've got everything on there, what are you going to do? Build your own website. I know Craig, if he's still listening, will back me up on that. Craig and I are always banging on at people when they're, putting in Logo Geek. What's the best way to find clients and get work? It's like, build your own website. It'll take time. Take time to get people to come and see you, because you've got to build up the SEO and all of that. But it'll be time well spent. Honestly, it really, really will. Toba saying, it was good to see your process. I find the single concept method very interesting. It was helpful seeing how you went about that with the client. Thanks, Toba. Stella, obviously I need to find bigger clients who won't whinge. Again, that's another kind of, it's a funny journey, that one, because it is the case of the clients that are willing to pay more, they tend to value your expertise more, and they will question you less because they're paying you money, like more money for your expertise, and so there's more trust there. The lower you go with pricing, generally that, I don't want to kind of paint everyone with the same brush, but generally it means they don't value design. And so they're going to be really picky all the time, and they're going to almost direct you with stuff. The higher you can go, you tend to find that the clients are much more, they will listen more, they will take part in the right way. And that's what I've found anyway. And the good thing is as well, that the more you charge, you don't need to work with as many clients. When you're not charging very much, you have to turn over clients really, really quickly. And again, you burn out. You know, if you have to work with 25 clients a month to make a meager amount of money, that's 25 times the admin, that's 25 invoices, that's God knows how many emails, phone calls, or you build your way up to charging way more, and you'll need to work with one client a month or two. It's a lot less stressful. Well, there's different stresses. There's maybe a bit more stress because you've got more at stake because they're paying you more, but you've got more time to think. And so, if you can chip your way up, just every time you do a project, add 5% on the next time you charge that project, and just keep adding 5%. And then you might get to a point where people aren't accepting your proposals. Just go back down 5% again, hang about there for a while, create more work, and then start bumping your way up, and just do that, nudge it up. That's what I did. I just kept nudging it up and nudging it up, and it worked. It worked. Somebody, F's got a tech question. Carl, your videos are well produced and your camera lens has a good depth of field. What do you use for your camera lens and lighting? Let me just jump back to the desktop, and I will. Let's go to web. I obviously had this website set up here because this was the site that I was using for the Davila when I was doing some of my research for the Davila name earlier on. And then this is the Logo Package Express website, which you must get if you haven't got it. So if you want to check out what gear I've got, if you go to the website, which is kit.co, so kit.co/pixels call, you will find this site here, and if you click on my YouTube gear, it tells you everything that I have. So right now, the camera I'm using for this is the M50, and I have this 22mm lens on it. It's an f2, so that's where I get I get a good depth of field here. But then with my other videos, like my YouTube videos, I've used different cameras, but right now I've got this M6, and I'm using the 16mm f1.4, which gives me a really good bokeh effect in the background. And then these are just like the other bits and bobs which I'm using. So so it's kit.co/pixels call. Check it out. And as you saw, I've got like things on there as well. I've got like books I like on strategy and graphic design and logo reference books. So hopefully that helps you out, S. What have we got? Stella saying, same, the biz bit is horrible. I hate money. I'll be in the corner with my crayons. Yeah, pretty much the same. I hate dealing with that side of it. Toba's asking, how did I approach finding bigger clients? YouTube has been really good for me. And not just YouTube. YouTube was part of a strategy I was using, which was content marketing. You may have heard that phrase, also known as inbound marketing. I don't have the book here, but maybe I'll do a live stream on that if people are interested in sort of how I find clients and what I did and my journey in that area. I'm happy to do a live stream on that. So if it's something you want to do, then it's a subject I know kind of inside out now. So I'm happy to do a live stream on that if it will be beneficial, because I think that will be beneficial to business viewers as well, not just designers. But long story short, I started to learn about content marketing, which is basically being useful and helpful rather than selling. And by being useful and helpful, you build trust, and you share your expertise. And so when someone is looking for a specific thing, so let's say it's logo design, then they will go to the person that they've probably been getting useful information from, and they feel they can trust them. Then they reach out and say, hey, I've been watching your content on YouTube for a couple of years. I'm now ready to start my own business. Would you be able to help me? You know, what are your fees, etc. And so that's how it's worked, and that's probably been since about 2015. So about five or so years. It took about 2 years of creating content every week consistently for me to land my first client from that content, and that was through YouTube. And that client reached out and said, watch your videos, love what you do. I know how much you cost because I had pricing on my website. And she said, how can I pay you? I've never had that before. I've always had to fight for work. So that doesn't happen all the time, by the way. That's not what it's like every single day. But that showed me that this content marketing thing was the way to go. There's different ways to market your business, obviously. You can do advertising or whatever. But for me, I've never advertised my business or services. I've only ever done content marketing. So that's how I find my clients. Let's see, I knew Craig would agree with me on building your own website. Big designers are nothing without marketing. You need to be marketing your work. Yes and no. I don't particularly market my work. I market my knowledge in the area of where I work. About design and stuff. I don't really I show my work today, but this is how I show my work, really, is I show my work through case studies. And again, this is where Craig will back me up. Case studies are gold, because if rather than just showing a logo on its own, right? Cool, that looks all right. If you can write a case study, and a case study would be something like what I've done today, where you take a viewer through the journey of what you've created, and you also talk about any problems and how you overcame those problems. That then tells the viewer that you're a problem solver as well, which is what we all are as designers anyway, but we all come up with problems. There's always problems arise in projects. When I read certain case studies where everything went swimmingly well and it was all brilliant and it was all roses and perfume, I tend not to believe them, because that's not my experience. I would much rather give a real journey so that clients know what to expect, but also know that if something does come up, then we'll figure it out and we'll work it out and we'll come to a good conclusion or a good solution. Those will work really well for you, more so, I would say, than having some work on Dribble. But I may be wrong. I know people get work on Dribble. I'm not dissing it. I just think that case studies work way better from a client's perspective, because it shows them how you work, and it shows them, what your process is. Because in a way, going back to the pricing, what you're charging for is your process, not so much the end result. Like I'll spend weeks, sometimes on the research and the development. The logo design can maybe be done in a day. They're not paying me for a day's work. They're paying me for my expertise. They're paying for the years of knowledge I have, and they're also paying for my process. So if you can show that you have a process that you use, that you go through all these stages, that's worth something, So you need to show all that stuff. Steph saying thank you. Stella saying yes, please, a live stream on finding clients would be great. Okay, we'll get that in. I'll definitely do that. Craig saying, comes back to the respect that you've earned on YouTube. As David said, hold the respect and build a tribe of fans that love your work and want to share it around. Yeah, you just, you have to do that. If you can build a little tribe around you of like, 100 raving fans, they will share your content to their audience, and that it moves out from there. So it's definitely something to do. When am I going to send you that red cap? I don't know. I kind of need this red cap because, like you say, it's got all that machinery underneath, which helps me think and helps me get stuff done. If it starts to get worn a bit thin and I get a replacement with a new machine underneath, you'll be the first to know, and I'll pop it in a box for you. David saying satisfied clients and examples of the work are your best marketing tool. Absolutely. Having other people say that you're good is way better than you saying you're good. There are plenty of people out there who have the ego to say that they are good and brilliant and work with me. I personally don't have that confidence to do that. So I just do my work and, thank the people that go out there and kind of, share what I do with others. And that works. Ryan's asking where I'm from in Scotland. I'm in Dundee, Ryan, on the east coast of Scotland, between Aberdeen and Edinburgh. On the sunny east coast of Scotland. Still freezing all the time, but at least it's sunnier than the west coast of Glasgow. So I think what we'll do is this turning into a 2-hour epic live stream. I've loved this. This has been really, really good today. This is like the third live stream. The first two had a few people on, and it's been great. Each week we're getting more viewers, and my little stat thing here is telling me that we had 19 people watching tonight, which is awesome. 19 people have taken the time to jump on and ask questions, which is fantastic. Hopefully we can build on that. So, talking about sharing, I would love for you to kind of, share the fact that we're all meeting here on a Thursday, 8 p.m. For people who live in the future, like Craig's already in Friday. Craig's in Friday. He's living in the future. He's in New Zealand. So for any other future people, hello tomorrow. But for the rest of us, it's Thursday. So I had a couple of comments from some people in India on the YouTube channel saying that it's 1:30 in the morning for them when I'm live streaming. I can't really change the time. This is the best time for me. If I shift it during the day, then that eats into my client time. So unfortunately, this is the sort of the best balance that I could find for it all. So hopefully, and people can watch the replay once it uploads to the channel. So yeah. Oh God, there's a lot more comments coming. Hi, I'm new in this field. Well, anonymous. Hi, I'm new in this field. I've learned from YouTube. I want to start a freelance, but don't know where to find clients, long-term clients. Tried on Fiverr and Upwork, but didn't get any response. It's a long-playing game, Anonymous. I don't know if you have looked at places like. Let me just go back to my desktop. If you go on Facebook and look for Logo Geek, I think it's now the Logo Geek design community. Have a look at that and ask to join that. There is an application process to get into the group. Ian, who runs the group, is really good at making sure only the right people get in. So there will be some questions there. So answer them to the best of your ability. You don't. It's not a job. It's not like you're applying for a job. But, it's just to make sure that we're going to get people in the group that, are going to play nice and stuff. So if you go there, and then if you also look for another group on Facebook called Resourceful Designer and join that one as well, and Mark will look after you there. I'm in both those groups, and there's a few people on this chat who are in both of those groups as well. And you'll learn a lot from all of the designers in there. And that's probably the best that I can suggest to you right now. So hopefully that helps you. Stella saying, I've always got my clients through word of mouth, but most are musicians in the arts industry in Australia is almost dead. So need to reassess. Yeah, I know a few people who are kind of struggling right now who were in sort of travel and catering, and hospitality industry, which have also kind of taken a bit of a nosedive. Niching can be really good. If you go into a niche, you can become an expert in that niche. But then there's people are finding that there is that flip side of, if something happens to that niche, then you can be affected with it. I'm more of a generalist. I don't really niche into anything. I like working with lots of different industries, so I've never really gone into a niche from that respect. No lying about it, this is the most beneficial live stream I've ever watched. Actually, the only one I've ever watched till the end. Wow. Thank you. I mean, like I say, it's a 2-hour epic, so the fact that you've actually lasted till the end, and then there's a few of you who've been here from right at the start and have made it through. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Every time I come on, I'm like, yeah, I'll chop it at an hour, but if people are finding it useful, then that's really, really good. Ryan's saying he's travelled through all of those places. I've been subscribed to you, but haven't got a notification in a long time. Yeah, I don't know what's up with the YouTube notifications. It's a pain in the butt. Also, was it because you didn't have the bell set? Oh, okay. Everyone else, if you're subscribed to the channel, make sure you click the bell so that you get notifications when I'm going live and when I've got new videos. And if you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Last question, right? Last question, then we'll wind it up. Ryan's asking, did you ever do 36 days of type? I did it last year and it started on April 5th this year. Honestly, I don't have the time for that. I run ragged as it is with client work, and I do try to give myself some downtime. And when I take downtime, I'm generally like playing computer games or something. I would love to have more time to do design, and that's kind of what I'm working towards by, bringing in other designers to help me with projects. I'm trying to free up more time for myself so that I can start doing design again for myself and not just client work. So no, I've not really done the 30 days of logos or 35 days of type. I could see it could be really useful though, definitely improve your skills and things. But for me, I just haven't got the time to do that. This is the sort of only thing that I'm kind of doing right now is, doing YouTube and live streaming and stuff is like a bit of a change from work, but technically I suppose it's still work to do that. Dirk's joined as well. Hi, calling old friends is a great acquisition tip now. Don't ask for work, just be human. I think we'll end it there. I think Dirk's got it right. If you're looking to kind of work with people, just be human. Don't try to be too salesy or anything. Just reach out, ask people if they need help, and just do what I'm doing with the content marketing thing. Offer help, offer advice, and do it in whatever way you want, whether that's blogging, podcasting, YouTube, on your articles on LinkedIn. Get yourself on LinkedIn if you haven't. If you're not on LinkedIn, yes, people think it's boring, but it's a good place to be because it's a business platform. It's not Facebook. It's a business platform. So get yourself on there and set up a page. I'm going to call it a day. Let's see my face again. I'm going to call it a day. It's been fantastic having you all on. Thank you so much for joining. Honestly, it means the world to me that you took the time out to come and join me tonight, and I'm not sitting here on my own speaking to myself. I will be back next Thursday. I am working on videos. Promise you, I am working on videos. Just time is not the most abundant right now, but there will be new videos going on the channel. But hopefully these live streams have been good stopgaps till then. And Fuad, I haven't forgotten. We will start doing some logo critiques on the channel as well, so keep an eye out for that. I'll be requesting people to send in their logos for me to look at and give some feedback. Okay, you know what I'm going to say? Stay creative, folks, and we'll catch you next week. Bye for now. Oh, and stay creative.